Today's guest is the man behind the original Ibiza Spotify playlist. He also produces for a lot of top artists, accumulating over 200,000 daily streams, to the point where he's even had to make different aliases because he's dominated the scene so much.
Yeah, he talks about how lockdown positively and negatively affected his career. He gives his younger self some advice, but will he pay attention to it? And he even throws in a giveaway for our lucky listeners. So let's get into the pod.
I've been always into music, obviously playing instruments, playing bass. I was writing for the bands I was in, producing for the bands I was in, but always had this passion about synthesizers and dance beats. So I was doing that on the side. I didn't know there was actually something you could do to make money from. So that's kind of how it started. I got early influences from artists like Portishead and that sort of, early electronica kind of thing. And then dived more into that as the time went by.
We'll get back to the pod in just a second, guys. Thank you, Eden, for sponsoring this podcast and making it a reality. Make sure you all hang around to the end because we've got some huge giveaways that you cannot miss. Let's go.
So parallel to my gigging and playing live, I was doing writing and production, and I started getting music into films. And that's when it really started to kind of build on that, because the tracks I actually got placed in films were my house music tracks, not the other ones. So that kind of fueled the flame a bit. And I want to jump back about 10 years from where we are today in a meeting with Disco Wax, where I had a lot of songs that I brought in for a pitching session, where they went, well, we don't have we can release this straight away. And I went, but you don't have an artist. And they went, well, you DJ and you produce, so you'll be the artist. And that kind of got me a big kick in the butt to just focus on 100% on what I wanted. So that was one lucky accident. And at the same time, I won a remix competition. I think it was on Beatport, but it was somewhere around that time where I won a remix competition where I remixed Eric Morillo. And I got to know him. So that kind of flew me into the scene pretty quickly. After being an artist for 3 months, I went to ADE and jumped on stage with him.
Cool.
Talk about the deep end, eh?
Yeah, I know.
Just jump straight into it. Obviously, I grew up with all these classic Eric Morillo tracks, but I had no idea that it was that big at that time. It's like, wow. He's probably still my biggest hero today. Sad story, but what can you do?
Yeah, terrible.
So from that on, so that kind of set the pathway for the last 10 years. So I'm coming up to my 10-year celebration next year as artist, which is kind of weird, but and also I've been producing lots of other pop and R&B stuff. I even been to Nashville for a bit to write lyrics. And one bit I brought home from the Nashville time is actually that lyrics is super important, and it's probably our strongest tool in music. You can't really sing a kick drum in the shower, but you can actually sing the chorus. Someone can. You get the idea, but I mean, we're frenetically focused on kick drums and hi-hats, while it's actually the vocal that carries the heavy lifting in most hits, or in most cases, I would say. Especially the memorable songs, the songs that kind of live through, like All I Need Is Your Love Tonight, like
yeah.
I don't know what.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's quite interesting that obviously you identify that. What do you think that is? Do you think it's just something instinctually inside us that we attach ourselves to the lyrics, or is it more like, tell us a little bit about that.
I think it's several level actually. Obviously the human voice is the one that's carry most emotions, because that's how we are as human. It's how we're built. We're built to listen to your mother or whoever your clan is. And I think it carries the most emotion that as an instrument, the human voice is definitely the strongest one. It's also the most complex one. In electronic music, it sets a really cool contrast to the electronic beats. So I think vocal really stands out in electronic music, which is also a strength of the genre. You can set the vocal apart in a much better way than you do in pop or something. And also you can use the vocal as a production element as well. So it kind of, the way it blends in electronic music is way more interesting than in other genres where the vocal just sits on top and sings a song. In dance music, you can obviously get away with less vocal, which is good if you want to be a lazy writer, but that one-liner you get in is it has to be good. It has to be really strong. There's not a lot of verses in dance music, to be honest. There are maybe a pre and a title, and that's it.
Yeah, I suppose obviously the story's absolutely huge in whether it's come down to whether you're talking about content, whether you're talking about, I suppose, all forms of art. Story is absolutely huge. So I suppose it also gives you an ability to help, like, sort of resonate with your audience as well, like by helping, obviously, like tie into something that they're going to resonate with. Therefore, they're going to find themselves attracted to that song a little bit more because it speaks directly to them.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, you can create imagery in your head from lyrics. You can do that from music, but it's way easier with lyrics. And if you can connect music and lyrics in the right way, you're really doing something good. And I've, at least for my own sake, I think my proudest sort of writing moment is maybe Shake the Tree, which is really weird musically and really weird lyrically. And there's something magic about it. People say they never get tired of the lyrics because there's so many imagery in there that you get you see new tigers every time you hear the chorus or whatever you do.
Yeah, awesome. Do me a favor and walk me through you going down to ADE and stepping up there with the best in the scene at the time in probably the best place, the epicenter of it all at that moment. What's like a younger lad new to the scene going through when they step up and they press play on that first song?
So obviously I didn't know how big it was. Well, I did. So I wasn't scared enough. I had DJed all the way up to that point anyway, so I was familiar with the gear. I had picked out a few songs and stuff, but it went so quickly. It's just like jumped up there, played, had a good time, high-fived, had a drink, and was hung around with the guys the rest of the night. And that was it felt really like I was supposed to be there in a way.
So you wouldn't say that you were nervous before you stepped on at all?
I hadn't had time because I got to know about this. I knew about the day before, flew down in the morning and went on.
So it all happened so quickly that you didn't really have time to react to it? No.
I just had time to pack your bag, prepare your USB and go.
Yeah. Do you think that was like helpful? Would you prefer it like that way, or do you prefer like feeling a little bit of worry before?
I've been way more nervous on other gigs, to be honest. That was this. I mean, this was, I think, the most nervous and most emotional gig, at least in recent time, was coming out of COVID. When I went to my first gig after a year and a half in fucking lockdown. I played, I think it was Escape Festival in It Together in Wales.
Wow, okay.
And I went on in front of a crowd of about 2,000 or 3,000 people in the tent just after Jax Jones. And that was my first encounter with literally people after a year and a half. It was really, really, really emotional gig, that one. And on top of that, I was so nervous I played through the entire set in way too quick. I was planning for 1 hour and a half. I was probably done by 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I started to relax a bit, and the promoter came up to me to say that Musti is 20 minutes late. Can you play longer? And that's kind of when it all got, yes, let's do this. And I just picked the tracks I loved and just played and played and played. And I got an hour and a half in front of that crowd. Probably the best or the most emotional gig I've done, actually, to be honest.
Awesome. Well, shout out to Escape.
Yeah, definitely.
Literally just down the road. Good
They're
friends of ours. So
great people. Say
so
hello.
Yeah, shout out to that. So tell me then, obviously, that's been one of the most emotional of your gigs. Give us the worst gig that you've come up against.
Oh my God. No, there's too many of those. No, but seriously, the worst gigs are when obviously when there's no one there, or when the promoter hasn't done any promotion.
Yeah.
You can get stressed out of like gear not working, but then I've played on shit gear and I've practiced stuff like I can actually play on one deck if I have to. There are a couple of ways to do it.
Yeah, how does that work?
So you can use the echo obviously and loop that. You can use the I don't remember what it's called, but it's another effect where it's kind of sample it and goes into a loop, and then you just swap the tracks over while the loop is going.
Right.
So
Genius.
mainly echo, and well, I did it first with echo, which works, as long as you put the feedback up full on, so it just stays on the beat.
Genius. I love that.
The worst gigs, I mean, there's so many degrees of worst gigs, so
yeah, you don't have to name and shame.
Everybody's had those horrible experiences.
It's only natural, isn't it? As like obviously a DJ producer yourself, there's only so much that you can do in the lead up to these events. At the end of the day, it's for the promoters to pack that face out.
Yeah, and obviously there are every range of promoters on the planet. There was one story I've kind of came fresh in mind. The engineer on the gig actually took a hammer and a nail to make sure the monitor was secure on stage. He was nailing it to the floor on the stage. Those are the sort of stuff that's really heartbreaking when you see someone putting a fucking nail into gear. It's like, what? Yeah. If someone did that to one of my synthesizers, I would be fucking.
Oh God, yeah.
So what was the first moment then? Was it that AD experience when you stepped up there and you're like, oh wow, this is the start of something special?
Yeah, so that was right after the deciding on making a solo project kind of came about. So I think I had like a few weeks between those two events that kind of just changed everything for me, and I just finished off every hip hop project and pop project I was in and just said, I'm going to do house now 100% because obviously that's been my passion all the way. Let's go all in and just do one thing and dig deep into that. So definitely that start's been, it was magic. Somebody probably meant it to be that way. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like. So talk us through your genres. What would you classify your your top 3 genres?
I think it's a kind of developing matter. I think jacking house is definitely a huge element, especially in what I do live. In terms of, so I've kind of try to put my genre in. It's like a minimal jacking something. I'm not too fond of tech house, to be honest. And I'm not too fond of progressive house either. I do a couple of projects for other artists in that genre, and I enjoy producing it, but I'm not as an artist. I'd rather have some more picking and stopping and starting and building and obviously the stuff I've done on Spotify are probably more commercial than what I do live, and I think that applies to most artists anyway. You tend to go way harder live.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not too keen on those, those long, big build-ups that goes, forever and ever. I'd rather just stop and start the beat and,
Yeah,
keep
just
it
keep them on
steady.
their toes.
And I don't know if you've had time to look at that basement project of mine, which is basically started as my own label, and that was kind of, I thought I needed a live extension for it to express myself. So that's been a really good avenue to kind of distill that sound and find other artists that I can include in that, to make sure I'm on the right shelf, to make sure what I do fits in a context. Otherwise, I don't think people will get it. If just like out of a sudden something new comes out, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I think that's also the reason why I put out the entire album, because it's very different from what I've done before, at least in my mind. And I thought, right, if I'm going to do this properly, I'll put out a few singles and then an album. So I kind of really make a road shift or whatever, gear shift or whatever you want.
Yeah. So are you going to be a lot more sort of narrow focused with that label then? Because obviously you draw from so much inspiration as from playing so many instruments, producing so much, like so many different genres. You clearly draw a lot of inspiration from all different walks of music. With your basement label then, is that going to be a lot more precise, a lot more narrow of like your sound, or are you going to be looking to pull in?
Oh, definitely. It's definitely going to be more close to my heart, less restricted to trying to be commercial. Obviously, I'll be the A&R myself, so I just want to put out what I feel.
Yeah.
And I think it's also a matter of the speed I can work at. So if I have a track that I like, I can put it out straight away. And I think some of the background for the album was actually kind of sets the frame for it, because that the tracks that are on the Need No Music album they're all tracks that were written for specific gigs. So I put myself in this ridiculous challenge to make one new track per festival that summer.
Yeah, we did see that. Talk us through that journey then. So, you get talk us essentially through your production. So, how does it go from idea to finished product? What does that look like for you?
Wow. How many hours do we have?
We have as long as you want, mate. You take the stage.
No, it could be any path. I mean, I have tracks that have started with lyric ideas. Like Need No Music was a sample idea that started with a spoken word sample that I really liked, and I kind of wanted to place that. So that track started, for instance, I just put the sample on grid and tried it live with different other tracks so I could basically see where it works. And then I built a track to support that vocal in that kind of space that I thought it would belong. Other tracks starts with kick, bass, hi-hat. Do I feel this? Jam along with the synth, open splice or whatever on top. And it's, I think it's more or less it's not a standard electronic music kind of approach, but messing around with samples is definitely a big part of it. Taking stuff live frequently has been really useful. So I think with most of the tracks that I try out in a set, I end up taking away 20% of the stuff that I put in, because it's normally overproduced. It's normally too much bass, which I thought was a good thing, but for some systems, it's not a very good thing. It's normally too much vocal, so I boiled down that. But yeah, inspiration can come from anything, literally. I work on iPhone sometimes. I went down to record some sounds downtown because I was, waiting for someone, and I just recorded some cars. That went into a sampler, and suddenly there was a song there.
Class.
I mean, I had this thing about sampling stuff for quite a while, so I sampled everything in my garage. So I've got a machine set, which is basically all my garage sounds. But I'm not making garage, but it's actually we had this TikTok idea about doing minimal garage, which would be, filming that process, which would be fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then we can obviously sample stuff in the kitchen and do minimal kitchen, which would be a fun genre.
Yeah.
That's just for the missus, though.
Yeah, minimal kitchen. What do you do? No, I do minimal bathroom. That's
I think I could get behind that.
Oh, you're supposed to have fun with music, and I think that's kind of also my ethos. Is, if I don't smile, if I can't dance to it, I can't be bothered. And often you hear that straight away if it's a too dark or a too dull idea, or idea that doesn't lift you up in any way.
Yeah.
Bring it to a collab with someone else, or just chuck it.
Yeah, damn right. What would you say is your favorite sample then, that you've taken something just on a random, like sporadically taken something on a random day, and then you've put it into your software and you've had to run with it?
Well, there's a hi-hat that I use a lot, which is actually something from the garage that I've used a lot. I don't know why it works. It's because I recorded on the 360 mic, so the stereo is really wide. So I always put it in with the sample hi-hat, so you get a really wide hi-hat. I can't remember what it was. It's probably a bag of soil or something that I hit with a spade. I really can't remember what it was, but it's actually from that set. There's obviously lots of synth sounds I've made that I've saved as presets that I always bring back. Like on the Juno, there's a patch number 12, which is, I don't know how it came about. It's a pad that's really amazing. It's literally on all my tracks somewhere. Yeah, there's some sounds on the Oberheim that I've used a lot. And obviously there are some production tricks at least I always end up doing, using the same compressors, using the same distortion and all that. And obviously that's kind of part of shaping the sound or the expression of whatever I do.
Yeah.
So take us through your Ibiza Spotify playlist. You are renowned for that, aren't you? Also, when did you start that playlist originally, the Ibiza?
That was
playlist?
Probably now 6 years ago. At one point, Spotify told everyone to make their artist playlist, or make a playlist that you can promote, because they wanted traffic on the platform, obviously. And I thought, right, my dream place to play is Ibiza. Why don't I make a playlist called Ibiza with all my inspiration? And I thought of it as so this thought has kind of developed, but I thought that would be a record shelf where I want my music to be in. Maybe a record shelf that doesn't exist, but it's kind of where I want. And I also thought this could be my digital version of my set, or some sort of what's it called? The cards you give to people with your name on it.
Like your business card.
Like a business card kind of thing. And also I thought this is later on, but I kind of imaged the ideal listener for that to be a guy in his sofa with his girlfriend, want to put on house music, but make sure there's enough vocals so she doesn't get tired of it.
That's awesome. So all of those tracks you're essentially thinking of playing for your avatar, your avatars, I guess, on their sofa.
Like a sofa clubber kind of version of me.
That was literally me. That's why I was laughing when you were saying that, because I've listened to it for years without realizing it was your playlist as well.
Oh, that's amazing.
In scenarios like that as well.
You've done all the streams for me. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
No, the playlist has been a huge, door opener. It's been a part of my branding. All my marketing I've actually sent to the playlist instead of to the artist thingy. So it kind of explains why it's so big as well. And it's well, basically being a good door opener to the business helped me a lot.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned there that obviously that's where you wanted your music to be played. Now, after all, this is the Ibiza Bible podcast. Ibiza
Yeah.
is very, very, very close to all of our hearts as well. And we all have our own like personal attachments to it. But walk us through what Ibiza means to you, why it was that like your destination essentially.
I think I must have had, like everyone else, some sort of hazy experience in my early 20s, I think, when club music hit me in the face and there was absolutely no returning from it. And I think it's definitely the way that the island kind of embrace the club culture. I mean, obviously now the first thing you see when you land is on the conveyor belt, you see the Clapton head, and you know, on your way into Ibiza, you see all these big posters with famous DJs. That's sort of, embracing that culture in such a big way, and showing that it's a part of culture. Like, at least in where I live in Norway, dance music is kind of guilty pleasure kind of thing. While the contrast going to Ibiza, it's actually the thing to do. That's what everyone's
It's integral, isn't it?
Exactly.
And you see it in everything as well. Like one of my favorite things about Ibiza is you can land there and straight away you see the Clapton head and you see the posters, but you'll jump in that taxi and then the taxi's just blasting tunes doing 120 down the road.
Ibiza Global Radio.
Yeah, so like it's your soundtrack is just constant. It's like you go to a nice beach club or a restaurant, that it's always there. It's just ever so present.
Yeah, you're just immersed straight away, aren't you?
100%, definitely. And you see club brands everywhere. Even if places where there's normally not music, there's good music. And I've also had some good after parties I've played where people who work on the island, they're probably the most professional listeners in the world because they're exposed to so much great music. So, I mean, those are kind of the worst parties to play because the expectations are so high. They don't want to hear that, even if it's a club banger. They don't want to hear that when they go off duty and want to party themselves. So, and I think that kind of spills into everything there. You need to be sharp. You need to, be something different to cut through on Ibiza, really.
Yeah. Whilst we're on the subject then, what's your favorite after party that you've been to out in Ibiza?
Oh,
that you can talk about.
No, but I can't be very specific, but I've been to some while the Russians were on the island and spending lots of money. I was hired to some ridiculous after parties with 100% famous people, no mobile allowed, ridiculous pay, and obviously whatever you get to eat or drink or whatever is, beyond what you ever had. So those sort of experiences, under the open sky, it's amazing.
I can only imagine you're sat there, you're looking around, and it's like a pinch me moment. Like, what the fuck? How did I get here?
Every single person that walks by, go, oh fuck, oh yeah, okay.
Class.
Well, that's Ibiza for you, hey.
Yeah.
Let's hope it never changes.
No, it won't change. It'll just go up and down with whatever. Shame about the COVID ruined so much. It was so horrible to come down there during COVID, and like High was closed during spring, and it's like, this is not nice. So I hope we never see that again, because that was horrible. It was felt like the end of club culture, kind of. You reached the end of the game. This is it.
Yeah, for sure.
So talk us through the effects that the lockdown had on you personally.
As a producer and personally.
Actually, it kind of did a lot of things. So also a big topic, but I think so. When COVID started, I was at a really good point before COVID. I had a guy who did loads of bookings for me. Hold on. remind me. Sorry. So going back to the question. Sorry, my phone was.
Yes, okay.
It's okay.
So the fact that the COVID had for me is multiple, I think, and I was in a really good place before COVID started. I had booking sorted. I had a long, pipe of events that I was going to play and festivals and stuff, and everything started kind of one cancellation after the other during that springtime. And later on during COVID, I lost my agent and kind of felt like now either if I quit this shit or I do something different, or I'll just try to pull through it. And thank God I chose the last one. So I decided to take as much production gigs that came in through the door. So since start of COVID, up till now, I've released about 300 tracks where I produced, written, or all of the above.
Wow. 300 tracks.
That's unreal.
Yeah. So I had some weeks where I actually had 2 songs on New Music Friday at the same time without my name on it.
Yeah.
It got to a point where I had to add a couple of writer aliases so I didn't have my name on everything, because it would probably ruin every algorithm out there. But I have at least 300 tracks out there, and the sum of the streams from that is absolutely fantastic. So I'm glad I did it. Kind of gave me a secure base to stand on. I made good deals. I made, so I have a cut from every, percentage from every track. So that kind of gives me a really good position in terms of I can do whatever I want now for real.
What an incredible story.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
It's amazing that.
Go ahead.
It's amazing how you can switch from I'm about to pack this in to well, essentially what you just said then. It's incredible to see. Like, I know there's a lot of stories, especially over the lockdown, where we see people being really, really tested. But I'm a big believer in, like, essentially as a bow, like the further you pull that back, the further it's gonna fly. And
but
that's
it kind of set the scene for Basement. The idea for Basement came along during lockdown. The idea for the album was like, shit, I'm going to do an album at one point. And I think passion never dies. I mean, if it dies, it's not passion, is it? It's just something you do for money, and you might as well switch it to driving a bus or whatever. But if it's a passion, it's something you really have to do. And I think that was the case for me. I just didn't have a choice.
Love that. Well, thank God you never.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you touched on your ghost producing there. Yeah. Can you speak on some of the tracks that you've got out there that the audience will definitely know, but maybe don't know that you're the mastermind behind it?
Well, I've been really clear with the deals I've done that I shouldn't talk about it, especially the big ones. But the kind of volume we're looking at is probably a couple of 100,000 streams a day in total from all the tracks. So the volume is actually the things, not the actual single tracks, but the share volume of tracks all kind of makes a good sum.
That's incredible. Like, unbelievably powerful.
It is. And I've obviously, it affects my production skills because I had to work fast. Like, there were some remixes I did in one day, ready mastered. I was scared to send them back to the artist because I thought, he's not going to believe I've done anything here. Or why do I want to pay for this when he's done it in one day? Some of those work I left for a week, and then I sent it back to the artist just to say.
So,
but I was producing so much at that point. So I had so many tracks sitting ready or ideas. So when I got vocal in, it's just, it works over this one, and then I dished it out, and it was done.
As easy as that.
Easy.
So I mean, that's probably one of the best things that's ever happened to you as well. Then it's like obviously being forced to have to create so much. Obviously, it's just every single job that you've taken on there is just another stone to sharpen the sword.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Production wise, those last 3 or 4 years or whatever it is, have really strengthened my production and speed and speed of decision making, saying that, okay, this works, move on. This works, move on.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels that it's kind of spilled over in the rest of the stuff I do. So, in making decisions quickly is probably one of the things that takes you forward quickly as well, because otherwise you keep on thinking about everything should be like this way. I'm a sucker for planning, as you noticed when I called up the other day just to make sure the camera was working. But that's also part of the game, being well prepared. And that's what all the production's done for me, being prepared for more production.
Well, it's probably those like protocols that you've set up in your own mind that have allowed you to obviously be able to bang out that kind of at that kind of pace. I think that's something that a lot of people could learn from as well, to be fair.
But another thing that working with other DJs who don't produce normally is that they often have a vision, and that vision takes away all the guesswork. So if they have like, I want my track to sound this and this and this and this, you cut away a lot of decision making. You don't have to do decision, you just do the work. Obviously you have to be creative within those frames, but just the fact having a vision is really beautiful. And that's very often when I have a session for myself, I don't have a clue of what I was going to make. I just sit down and make something, but having a vision for something is making a whole different, the whole process very different.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously you get hit in the face by the lockdown. You now have to go away, and obviously you've done all the work, you've got all the reps in, you've fine-tuned everything you're doing, all your processes, and as you've mentioned a couple of times, that's what led to the creation of Need No Music.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about that. What's the plans? Where are you going with it? What were like the sort of influences behind that? Because if you're creating so many tracks at points, some every single day, how do you then like sort of bring that to your own music? Or what's the thought path behind, I guess, no, this is something that this is my voice. This is what I want to tell people.
So it was 10 years in the making, wasn't it, as well, the album?
Was it 10 years in the making? I think that was more from an interview where they were expecting an album earlier from me. So
yeah, right.
It was kind of what they wanted to say, I think. But I always wanted to make an album. So in many senses, it's been 10 years in the making. But the tracks themselves were about 1 year old when they came out.
Okay, right.
But the main idea, or what started the ideas, was I was so fed up with streaming, that non-human kind of way of looking at music. It's just a consume. It's not. So when you listen to a playlist, you can't really tell an artist apart. It just sounds the same very often. People don't care what's on a playlist. They just play music and that's it. And I thought, all right, so then my next step is to trying to bring what I do live to Spotify or to streaming service or to YouTube or whatever, to make sure people knew what I was actually about when they came to see me. So those live idea tracks kind of made it into this whole loop, and I picked out a handful that went on the album and kind of distilled those down to what I wanted them. So they were a kind of mix of my live expression at the time, what my set would sound, and where I kind of was heading or am heading still. So it definitely got a lot of that jacking in it. I didn't produce them. I did produce them I worked a lot on the production, but I think the end result sounds pretty rough still it's nothing overproduced, I hope. And I think that's kind of the ethos with house music as well. You should hear what sort of drum machine you use. You should hear what sort of that there's a Moog playing the bass. You should actually hear that if there's a sample, it's not playing in time, or it's off somewhere very different, or the vocal is from somewhere, or things could be out of tune, which is wicked, you know.
Yeah, I love that.
It sounds good.
I think it was Dave Grohl who used to say that he used to always purposely, like, when they're recording, he would leave all the slides in. He wanted the tracks to sound like as authentic as possible. You can hear the imperfections, and that's what makes it special, and that's what, like, the people pick up on subconsciously, I guess, but they're picking up on the imperfections and make it seem live, as if an experience, not just an essentially electronic track being plugged into their ears.
Yeah, 100%, definitely. You know, like even stuff when you play a kick drum, there's a sound from the pedal coming back up.
Yeah.
And when you start to think about that sort of stuff, at least I've done, I put that into production. And I thought, okay, what does this kick drum sound like when it's coming off the beat? All right, there's a little click I have to put in there. So when you listen to the kick alone, it's actually grooving by itself. On contrary, techno is not doing that, but house will do because it's sample based very often. And yeah, obviously those imperfections. And during COVID, I had more time than ever. So I took my drum machine or the sampler, and I was standing out playing, not quantizing anything. So a lot on the album has not been quantized even. So it was just the way I played it. So that kind of adds also a human thing to it. Seriously.
Yeah, for sure. I think you've been quite clear on, like, feeling the emotion of the tracks, and I think that's something that, like, we see throughout your career as well, is like how you can connect to your audience as like on a deeper level than just, as you said, putting just music up on a streaming platform. And one of the best ways to do that, or what we believe is one of the best ways to do that, and essentially is what this podcast is right now, is coming to YouTube and then allowing DJs, producers, people of interest to open up and talk a little bit more directly to the audience and get a little bit deeper. So
yeah, I truly
that leads me on
that.
Yeah, for sure.
Another massive thank you to Eden for sponsoring the podcast. If you guys want the chance to win a €300 bar spend to the Eden opening party in Ibiza, head to the description down below for entrance details.
But that leads me on to what I've seen that you started doing with your basement jams, opening up on YouTube. So just to give the audience like an idea of what you're doing over there.
Oh, thanks. I'm happy you found that, actually. That was, it started as art by accident. We did a photo shoot for something. I can't remember what it was. And then Blickfeld, the artist who's in that session, the jam, he said, "How's this thing working?" Okay, here's an ARP. And we started playing with it. And I started the drum machine, and we went, "Oh, we have a camera up here already. Let's record this." And that's literally what it is. There's nothing in between it. So we're going to definitely do more of those jams. So in studio, playing synths. We have set aside 2 or 3 days during Christmas to record a whole lot of them. I've even invited a couple of friends to come so we can do different variations of them. But, you know, bringing people into to what you love doing, and just show that this is nothing serious. This is about having fun. This is about,
damn right,
you know, not trying to be pretentious for having lots of synthesizers and stuff, but trying to convey that this is just for fun. We're doing this because we enjoy the music, and no other reasons, to be honest.
Yeah, that's it. It doesn't have to be, but then that's what's humanizing your music and like creating something bigger than just a track, you know. And it's, but no, it's awesome to see. I really wanted to really wanted to like make a sort of put a pin in that one. Where can the people go to go and listen to those?
So everything Basement will be on Basement Records in 909, which is the URL for the YouTube. So basically, search Basement Records on YouTube, and you'll find everything that's live recording of every sense. Even the DJ sets, all the shorts we put out with silly stuff going on dance floor, or all the jams that's coming out pretty soon. We have about 6 or 7 sets from Basement Session we haven't put out yet. We got one really great one with Tube and Burger coming out. We got one with Mera, who were guests on the last Friday on Jaeger. And we have some amazing guests coming on Basement as well. So those will be hopefully memorable video recordings as well. I don't want to compare it with Boiler Room, but it's at least in that same kind of vein that we're trying to bring people closer to the DJ and make the music accessible and, alive in a way.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love that.
So the next step, I guess, would be bringing Basement to Ibiza.
Yes, definitely. Have you got any plans in place for that?
We are talking to people. We are doing a Berlin gig, that's for sure. That's going to be pretty big for us. We're working with sponsors and partners to set it up. It's obviously a bigger undertake than to do one recorded session in Oslo than doing Berlin or Ibiza. But the Berlin one is definitely going off this year, or 2024. We also might do a Madrid on actually a pretty prominent rooftop, but we kind of want it to be in a basement. So there we are looking for another alternative venue. Yeah. And that's kind of what I don't know if that idea of a basement fits on Ibiza, but I'm sure there's a good venue for it somewhere.
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
Pasha would work great, but the kind of nearness and I think also the idea, because now we have 4 sold out events, and what I like about it is that people are so close, and it's not a big venue kind of idea. It's
I've got something in mind. Perhaps we'll put a pin in this.
Tell me
this offline.
yeah.
But yeah, I think something that could work really well with that is. Are you thinking more intimate gig?
Ideally, yeah. Obviously, it's easier to sell out, but it's also easier to create that intimate space and being close to one another and really feel that togetherness of house, that we're in this together. We're jumping up and down together. The DJ is one of us. You can actually go and talk to him in the breaks while you're changing DJs and stuff. That sort of nearness, I really love it so much.
Yeah, there's a clear theme here, and you're quite evidently all about feeling the music. It's something a little bit more than just putting tracks on. But yeah, I love to hear it, and yeah, that's something that I would love to sort of get involved with as well. So definitely chat about taking that out to Ibiza, because I want to see that even if it's just for myself.
Sure, yeah.
Well, it sounds like we got a plan. So that's I mean. I'll probably have to fly to Oslo to see next Basement event then, and you'll see what it is.
Yes, absolutely.
Love to do that.
There we are.
Yeah,
and we'll do a little takeover of a Beef for Bible for that as well.
Yeah, let's do one of those. Live from Oslo.
Go.
What the hell are you doing there in the snow?
Yeah. I'm going to need to go get a big ass fucking jacket for that.
It's -10 and we're on Ibiza. No, we're not. Actually,
There'll be a white party, but just not in the typical Ibiza sense.
Not the white tiles.
Yeah. No. Well, we did do a gig with Mambo is doing also events away from Mambo, so we did one in on a skiing resort here 2 years ago on the closing night. So we did like a Mambo night with loads of DJs and stuff, and that worked really, really well. And all the guys were out skiing, and thank God nobody broke a leg or anything. But it was a really, really beautiful night. It really was.
I bet. For the next segment, I would like to take it a little bit more seriously. and obviously you only have to divulge as much information as you wish to. But there's obviously a lot of young producers out there who are obviously dreaming to be anything near what you've got at the minute. And obviously that's part of what this is for, is to open up and sort of delve into what really like makes it tick, the difficulties that you go through and everything. But one of the key problems that I see in the industry, especially for like the young producers, and something that like is sort of really behind the curtains a little bit, is how they actually go into monetize what they're doing. So is there any chance we could just take a minute just to like sort of divulge into what like your revenue split looks like as a producer? And I don't need any figures or anything, but perhaps just like percentages of like, we all know the horror stories of Spotify. I mean, what's his name? Snoop Dogg's just come out and just said that he earned like $43,000 from billions of streams.
Yeah.
Right? So I think the average is Spotify is like 0.03 cents per stream, which is obviously stark contrast. And we've seen to obviously buying CDs or records, which has created this stark contrast, and artists have had to begin looking for like other forms of revenue, whether it's, well, I mean, I'll just leave that to you, but do you mind opening up a little bit?
I thought a lot about it, obviously, because obviously I have a bank account to refill as well. Every time I've been to Ibiza, I have to refill it. Or the synthesizer shop alternatively. But obviously the game has changed so much, and not only Spotify, but the consumption in general has gone up so much that products don't live that long anymore either. So my take on it is that it has become a volume business more than, a single entity that you sell. So instead of making one album a year or one single half a year, you probably have to do one every month. You have to put out products on every channel where it's monetizable, probably. You have to do sessions for others. You might have to do a couple of aliases just to put out tracks that you don't like yourself, just to secure some sort of volume. And volume is not a bad thing, because volume, I think, drives creativity in a way. Because like we talked about before, you have to make decisions quicker. When you make decisions quicker, you trust your own gut rather than thinking about what would Calvin Harris or someone else do with this track. You just go with whatever you feel is right. And I think the positive side of that is that you end up with lots of music that's more personal in a way. And I think I have like 200 to 300 pictures a week coming into the playlist. I briefly listen to most of them, but when I say briefly, it takes me about a second to hear if it's something I want to listen to more. And that's very often because, okay, I've heard this before. I've got a track like that already. Why the fuck should I have another one? I got a track like this from a big artist. Why should I switch to this? You can normally hear straight away if it's something you want to dive straight into or more into. It's the sound. There's always some elements that, tells a unique story then that's worth listening to. If something sounds like something else, I seriously don't want to hear it. And I think that's the opposite of at least how playlists normally work as well. Because people assume that if your playlist sounds like this track should also fit.
That's what the people like. So just give them more of that.
Should I take away the Calvin Harris track and put it in yours because it sounds like the same? No. It's. I'd rather have something that sounds different to everything, so people can experience something new. And I think that's us artists' responsibility as well, to put out something that's truly yours, rather than something that's halfway. You think it should fit, kind of stuff. And that comes back to speed, but it also comes back to number of tracks you've done. You need to build your stamina and make lots of music before you actually realize what's your true kind of heart in music, and what are the parts I like in music. You need to go to loads of clubs and hear, okay, the sound of this club, I don't want to be played here. This is probably where my track would fit. Okay, what would this world sound like? How would my track fit into this world? You might have to adjust, but that's not for commercial reasons. It's more like fitting into that record shelf in a way, that more make sure it's clear that this is what I am, or this is what my track is. Obviously, young producers have a lot of opportunities to do that. Prior to internet and social media wasn't there, so that's the other side of the thingy. But I kind of realized lately that YouTube is actually the strongest platform to work on. No, but seriously, the social media is just stressing you up. And if you think about it as a record shelf, your record would be on TikTok. It would be a cat, it will be a cake, it will be a failure of some sort, and then your music video, and then back to failures and stupid stuff. You would never put your record in that record shelf ever.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, you're right.
Seriously. So why do people?
That's an interesting way of looking at it, really. But it's 100% true.
On YouTube, the recommendation are way more themed in a way. So if you're looking at whales, you'll get shitloads of whales.
Yeah.
If you're looking at DJs, you'll get DJs all the way.
Yeah.
And I'd rather be in that space than.
Yeah. There's two things that just clicked when you were just speaking. The first thing is, I think you must be like the pinnacle of just getting your reps in. I think as we've been speaking, and it really just clicked to me then. So like the fact that you're listening to so many tracks for your playlist is exposing you to so much new music out there. And then the fact that you're also then taking that inspiration, all of the inspiration from all the other tracks that you've done, and all of like the work that you have to fulfill, is just meaning that you are like, there is no bones about it. You are 100% in on music, whether it's listening to new tracks, new creators, or new genres, And I think it's really just this just constant getting the reps in every single day, which is obviously, as I said earlier, just to repeat my quote, it's just multiple stones that are sharpening the sword. Yeah. I think that's the first thing that stood out to me during this conversation, what just clicked then when you were speaking. And then, secondly, what you just said about YouTube was really, really powerful. We spend a lot of our time in the social media sphere. Like it's what this is. It's everything it fuels all of our fire. And we've come to exactly the same conclusion as you, not so much just with music, but with building our audience. So where the idea of this podcast is like the main distribution channel is going to be YouTube. So we can actually take time for ourselves and for our guests and build these deeper connections, which is where you're going to be like, it's the only platform that I see us being able to do that efficiently, because you've got your TikToks and your Instagrams and Facebook Reels and everything's so short form, so like clicking, just trying to really like attack people's dopamine systems, which means that like you're then competing with ridiculous levels of dopamine traps is essentially what it is. So for you to stand out, we've had exactly the same sort of conclusion, come to the same conclusion as you, is like YouTube is where it's at, and you can actually build meaningful connections. You can even train your algorithm on YouTube, because it's owned by Google, so it's tied in Alphabet, so it's tied into your Google searches, it's tied into everything, and you can really start like honing that in if you know how to use it properly.
Yeah, 100%. And even Google advertising is a fraction of cost promoting tracks on other social platforms. I think another thing with Google or the YouTube that sets it apart, it's that Google is a search engine rather than a lean back entertainment engine like a playlist or a TikTok where you just go, nah. But while Google will serve you something that's relative to where your journey started. So if you started the journey one day saying tech house Ibiza on search, the rest of that session will be about that.
Yeah.
A thing. This was like a friend of mine who told me that when you're doing a search, your brain goes into hunter mode, and the stuff that you find, you're going to own forever.
Yeah.
It makes sense, right? I mean, the stuff that I found, I was looking to this new genre, I found this, wow. Imagine someone going to drum and bass now and just discovering and find Stace and Chase and Status, and they're going to go, this is the pinnacle of drum and bass. And that band's going to be with them forever. Just because it was the first thing that they found when they searched for it.
Yeah, for sure. I call it YouTube University.
Yeah.
You can go there for anything. You can get lost deep down in that rabbit hole of whatever subject you could possibly think of. But it also holds so much power as well, though, in terms of like if it's coming to learn about a new genre, a new space, a new product, like it's all there. If you know how to use it, or if you sort of have any interest in how to use it, then it's all there for you. It's such a powerful tool.
100%. And also in terms of, if somebody remembers your song, if it was about a green elephant, they will find it. That won't happen on Spotify. House track about green elephant, you'll find it.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen on Spotify. So in terms of, tagging and everything, it's a beautiful, beautiful platform. Shame it's like, well, there's nothing wrong with it, actually, to be honest. It's just, I wish it could be a bit more younger audience on it as well. There's a lot of gamers and stuff, obviously, but there's definitely a place where people are looking for music and discover new artists. So that's the sort of place I would love to be in,
Yeah, I think we'll see the evolution as they do move on. Like I was watching a show the other day, and there was a young Chinese girl. I think she was 3, and she could speak fluent English without any accent, just because she was watching shows on YouTube.
Oh, fuck.
So like, and then I was watching another one as well with a different creator, and she was talking about like essentially how to go viral and all this. And she was saying about how, where was I going with that? I can't remember what that second point was.
There is power in the short form content still for exposure.
That's it. That's what I was going to say. And then so this other girl that was talking about YouTube was saying that her younger cousin, didn't actually know that there was wider form content on there.
Wow.
Now that's So she was like, "Oh, did you know that you could actually get like wide videos on there too?" Now that's a bit of that's I mean, that's a little bit worrying if they're just coming over for the short form. But I see a lot of creators are really good at using their short form as marketing tools for the longer form as well. Then, so I think as they come over.
Yeah,
I mean, like it goes back to what I was saying about earlier. Like every story is at the center of everything, in my personal belief. I think that story is what pulls everything together. You can't show that really on a short form, but if you can use those short forms to attract like the younger generation, what they're used to, they're going to come over and they will have like a natural sort of aptitude to like try and find these stories in the longer form. So I think that there is hope there somewhere.
Absolutely. And any long form you can cut into 20. So an hour DJ set can be cut into 20 shorts with no and you can do one a day. And if you start to get people into the flow about seeing that, they're going to buy into what you do.
Yeah, for sure.
And I hope you're going to do that with this interview as well. Cut it up into 40 fucking pieces and make one every day.
Yeah. That's exactly it.
That's
Actually, yeah, that's exactly it.
No, we're gonna do 3 a day.
Yeah,
Buckle up, guys.
I'll comment on every single one of them.
Let's go.
Share and like.
Okay, I think we should lighten this up a little bit, and we touched on it
been dull,
briefly
hasn't it,
earlier. We touched on this briefly earlier, but I would love to dig in a little bit deeper into your favorite Ibiza stories.
Ooh.
Dig into some. What's that one story that stands out to you as like I would say hair-raising moment, but I mean we don't really get the luxury of that.
There are quite a few ones, but there's one that kind of stands out in terms of that's what Ibiza is about. It was actually going home from Ibiza. I think the show was over at 3 a.m. My plane was at 9. And my journey went Ibiza, Amsterdam, Oslo, right? So I was gonna change planes in Amsterdam. I got on the plane, realized I only had one shoe.
It took you that long to realize.
Fair enough, I've lost a shoe. That happens, especially after that sort of night. And then I changed planes in Amsterdam and landed in Oslo. And guess what? The other shoe came out alone on the conveyor belt in Oslo. I have no idea how that happened. I wish someone filled my face at that point, because it must look. I must have been so surprised.
Yeah,
Wow.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
So that kind of paints the classic Ibiza moment.
yeah, that's a standard night in Ibiza.
Says so much. How the fuck did that happen?
To be fair, you've done well in making your plane, because
Yeah.
I mean that's the majority of the horror
you just don't go to
stories.
sleep, do you? You just stay up. That's easy. There are plenty of ways to do that on Ibiza.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a special place.
Yeah.
Go on.
Oh my god! No, there's definitely some good stuff. I mean, they're all about partying, aren't they? So it's the same about getting too drunk or getting to something and ending up at weird places, and yeah, crossing the island to get from one gig to another in too short a time space and stuff like that, and having crazy taxi drivers, and
Yeah.
there's a lot about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. One thing that's always stood out to me about Ibiza, I think we might have actually touched on this with Ben Santiago, but Ibiza is one of like the slowest paced places I've ever been. I think Spain as a whole is extremely slow paced in terms of like, if you need anything done, then mañana. Okay, you'll get it done. Whatever. Doesn't seem to be any rush whatsoever, other than when you're in that fucking taxi. When you're in that taxi,
it was like a time warp.
It was yesterday.
Yeah. 100%. It's that's the only time you got to rush. Otherwise, it's legs up and drinks up on the table or whatever.
Damn right.
Yeah.
No, it's a great place, and I think that if people haven't been there, or they haven't gone to see these special caves and gone to look at the rocks and stuff, they should do it, because those moments when first time you see Esvedra and stuff like that it's just so special.
It's breathtaking.
Yeah, but it's also it's hard to describe what it is. There's a magnetism to it that no other place got.
Sure.
Yeah, it's hard to sort of articulate the feeling that you get, but like, it is a feeling, isn't it? It's not a case of like, oh, that looks pretty. It's like there's an emotional connection.
Oh yeah.
I feel that every time I get off that plane, I feel that connection to the place. It's a very, very special place.
Yeah. And hope they never change that blue sign on the airport, because that's going to have to be there. So we all can take a selfie when we.
It's iconic. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It definitely is. And I kind of like the hippie, obviously the hippie vibe of the island as well. That
Yeah.
Sorry.
So on more of a serious note now, we'll bring it back down again. What advice, Simon, would you give to yourself going back to the very beginning with the knowledge that you know now from your career so far?
Ooh. Trust my own taste and don't try to please anyone. Seriously, and trust what you like the most and dig into what's your guilty pleasure rather than trying to be whatever else. If you like dancing, dance, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. But
yeah, so sort of pursue your own style and go
obviously,
trust your gut instinct.
Yeah, trust
rather
what
than
comes
trying
out.
to mold yourself.
Have you? So is that something that you suffered with from the beginning? Then you didn't really trust your intuition.
Yeah. And you go away and learn all sorts of trades. You learn, all sorts of instrument. You dig into all sorts of chord theories and music theory. Obviously, it's a good part of the learning and one of the rocks that you need later on. But there are definitely, if I knew where my heart was and that there was a space for that I could, kind of make a living from or express myself, there were enough people out there who liked what I was doing, then I wouldn't go all those back and forth and stuff like that. And seriously, trusting myself being a weak point. I wish I'd trust myself more.
Yeah, for sure. I think that goes to everybody, really.
Yeah.
But this pulls into the common theory of this podcast, I guess, which is something that obviously you've been talking about. It's about the feeling, right? It's about feeling the music, feeling present in what you're doing, enjoying yourself. And obviously you can only do that if you accept the feeling, if you accept what you're doing, if you accept where you are.
100%. And that's also the kind of stuff you get to experience when you go to Ibiza first time, when you go to a club, that there is a space for this stuff. There is a space for letting loose, to dance and to give a fuck. And the kick you get from enjoying the club dance music is priceless. And I couldn't live without it a single day now,
Yeah. You and I both.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah.
You and I both. So that's the advice that you'd give back to yourself.
Yeah.
Do you think going back, you would take that advice?
Ooh, it's the kind of advice you need to be in the right space to understand, I think. So I'm sure someone told me that early on. Because there's always someone who's been saying this.
Yeah. So that's a no.
I wouldn't take it, no. But to give like an image of it, so when going back to say the playlist curation, when I listened to 200 tracks to get through all that inbox, the stuff that stands out straight away stands out not because it sounds like something else, it stands out because it does not sound like anything else.
Yeah.
And the only way to make sure you don't sound like someone else is to trust yourself. You're the only one who can make a personal imprint on your music, or your life for that matter. If you can't listen to yourself, what comes out is going to be generic rubbish. Yeah. Full stop.
Yeah.
Well, you're always chasing something else then, aren't you? Because you're trying to pander to this brand or this party or this DJ. So like
exactly.
You think that, that's what people like. I'm just going to make my track sound like that. But by the time that you've got any sort of exposure to your tracks, and realistically, that's already moved on, or people have already, so you're always chasing as opposed to just carving a lane for yourself.
Yeah.
And it's all about expression, right? Like it's an art. So it should be individual. And realistically, anything that you do in your life, if you're like geared or you're interested in one thing, there's millions of other people out there exactly the same as you that are interested in the same as you, that like what you're on about. It's just you as the artist, you have to be like the spokesperson for them or for that belief.
Another weird thing about it, the more unique you go, or the more quirky you go, whatever, the less competition you meet.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to sound like what you do. And
Yeah.
you're likely to get more bookings, you're likely to get more attention, you get likely to get everything, easier, because you meet no competition, because you sound like nothing else.
For sure.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
I got this imagery in my head now when you were talking about, so there's a party where they're serving punch, and you see that, right, this punch is going well here, so I'll go and make some more punch and bring it to the party. Then you're too late.
Yeah, that's it.
Bring
Yeah,
another drink, for fuck's sake. Sorry about the swearing.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's a nice way of
They're
putting
not, they're not
it.
censoring us on YouTube, are they?
Hey?
They're not censoring swearing on YouTube, or you will.
Well, no, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't matter on this. I mean, we speak as we speak. It's your voice, eh?
Yeah. Another thing that might be worth mentioning or talking about to young people, or that I should have told myself, is the idea about branding, or the idea about kind of trying to look yourself from the outside to see who you are. It's kind of hard to explain, but having a clear vision of who you are on stage or on camera, or as a person, how am I communicating to people? Am I dark? Am I humorous? Am I always smiling, or whatever? What am I? And I think when you see artworks as well, and this is another thing I've noticed when creating music, is if you see the artworks, some of that uniqueness shines through on artwork sometimes, if they have something to bring to the table. So if the music is special, they also have a special idea about how this is going to look. So it's a kind of cue to that, it's like a hint that here is something special, because they've actually bothered to put in work in the artwork, in the graphics, to say that this is something special. This is not like this one over there. This is this one here.
Yeah, the thought has gone into it rather than it sort of just being generic.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean,
and you're being authentic as well,
Absolutely.
I've worked on creating creating brand identity for a lot of brands, for a lot of companies, and it's always been like really refining who that avatar is, so who they want to approach. But when it comes to the more individual levels, so like for an artist or for a content creator or anything like that, I always completely switch it to who are you. So it's about what you were just saying, and like thinking about who you are, because I say to them, they've identified a niche, they've identified a problem that needs to be solved. They've elected themselves as the person to carry out that or to solve that problem. So if they've identified the problem, it goes back to what I said, there's millions of other people that have also identified that problem.
Yeah.
So keep yourself as like the main avatar, looking at who you are, why you come to this solution, why you think that music is like, there's a gap in the market for that music, or why you think that we're missing this kind of sound. And then if you just are 100% authentic and true to that, I can assure you that there is millions of people out there that will also believe that.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. Yeah, we do have more in common with many more people than we think. And I've noticed that when I'm making music, when it starts to connect, and I'm like, wow, did you like that song? What? It doesn't make sense, but then there's always something that connects in a way. Totally.
Yeah, for sure.
What's this one thing I was going to mention? And this is also art by accident, and it's about having your eyes open to what's going on. So I was wearing this. I made this thingy, a jack, which is literally a jack in a chain, right?
I thought that was a cat spoon for a minute.
No, it's not.
Sorry, carry on.
No, don't worry. So I was wearing this at gigs, and people started wondering, what's that? Can I buy it? And then I thought, right, I'm going to have to get more of these. So I actually sat down this summer and I made 150 of these. and kind of sold them on my gigs and stuff. But then suddenly this has become part of my identity.
Yeah.
And there are small stuff like that that kind of falls into place when you have your eyes open for those sort of opportunities, and not trying to hide something or trying to be like someone else. Just put on whatever you have, or wear whatever, or play whatever music you play with pride instead of trying to be something else. It's a hard lesson, but I think, again, yes, I should have listened to myself when I was younger, but I didn't.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So in this segment, Simon, we have asked the previous DJ that came on the podcast, which was Ben Santiago, a question for the next guest.
Woohoo.
And you are our next guest. So the question is, if you didn't become a DJ, then what do you think you would be working at instead?
I would definitely work in the music industry, in one way or another. Probably on the label side of things, help developing artists, that sort of work. I truly enjoy creating stuff, so whatever I can work on that's creating something that wasn't there before, that's probably what I do.
That's a super interesting question, actually. Is there something else or another role that you perhaps maybe like see yourself moving towards, like later in your career, or?
Well, I enjoy running labels, or working with labels. So obviously the experience from Basement and all the complex write stuff, I kind of like digging into. I like numbers, and I think that's a music thing. So I like looking at numbers and figure out what they mean. So looking at analytics and stuff is fun. But definitely creating something is part of what I kind of get that's what my dopamine gets.
Yeah.
Up and running, and the feeling of completing something.
That leaves us open for you then to ask a question to our next guest. I'm not going to tell you who that is.
Oh,
Yeah.
I fear this one, and I don't have a question. I wish I could pass the same question on because it's a bloody good one. So if you were to run Spotify, what playlist would you put on the homepage?
Hey,
That's actually a really good one.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that a lot. Well, that's quite the roller coaster that you've taken us on there. You've taught us a lot, and I've got a lot as well to take away with myself. I'm sure the audience will do as well. You've spoke some really like sort of hard home truths there. And yeah, I've really appreciated you taking the time. We'll definitely be doing this again. I know we've only sort of just scratched the surface with you there. Have you got any closing remarks for the audience? Where should they go? Where do you want to go, and like where do you want them to go, and sort of interact with you, catch you, anything to follow?
I wish you all come over to my Instagram and say hola. I will reply to each and every one of you. Obviously, if you want to follow me, do that if you like my music and my content, but it's more about just say hello. Give me come say hola, just so I feel that, there's someone out there, which is what, makes at least my musical heart tick, and, that someone out there listening to my music. That's all I need to kind of know.
Yeah, for sure. So anybody out there, when you're listening to one of Simon Field's tracks, make sure you go and check in and say hello.
Yeah.
He would greatly appreciate it. We know that.
Amazing.
Right, perfect. I think that's the pod.
Wicked.
Catch you soon.
Hi guys. You should head over to Ibiza Bible on YouTube. There's a long interview with the great guys, and you can win one of these, my handmade necklace, if you leave a comment on the YouTube channel. So please head over there. We'll look at the comment and draw 2 or 3 winners that will get my necklace.
And if you like this episode, then I know you'll love this podcast with DOD, super insightful deep dive into his journey and how he keeps knocking out hit after hit. I'll see you there.